Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. Today marks exactly 2 weeks until we get Talandre. So I want to go over a beginner's guide if you're new to the game or if you're coming back to the game, how to get max level 50 as fast as possible and get as many traits as possible within these next 2 weeks to prepare for Talandre. Now, everybody kind of understands the leveling aspect of this game. The leveling aspect of this game, you just want to do your main story quest. So whenever you pull up your main story quest, you want to make sure you're doing the appendix or the appendix, the adventure codex first. Make sure that you're following the adventure codex into your exploration codex. Make sure that all of your adventure codex is done each chapter before starting your adventure or your exploration codex. So purple into blue. That way that you can maximize your leveling from 1 to 50. While you're leveling, pick a weapon setup. Do not re-roll once you're 50. Do the research before you get to level 50. Once you're level 50, you'll have all of your parchments, all of your experience tokens, everything that you can roll into that one set. You do not have enough time to choose another class and re-roll in this moment, so make sure that you are maximizing. Now, once you're level 50, the second thing that you're going to want to start doing is go to questlog.gg. If you go to questlog.gg, you can go to character builds. Whatever class you're wanting to run, for instance, for me, I am a dark blighter, so I run wand dagger. Okay, you're going to want to find a specific build on here. Ignore anything that has arch boss loot on it, because arch boss loot is just locked behind the arch bosses or a ton of lucent. You do not have time to do it unless you are in a high-end guild that already has every arch boss item. It is very, very, very unlikely that that is going to happen. So pick a specific build. Once you find a build, there's your weapons, the set bonuses, and all of your accessories. All of these items, except for arch boss items, so for instance, Band of Universal Power, are super easy to obtain. If we look at any of these pieces of gear, so for instance, on this build, Licarius Wand and Dagger both come from a T1 dungeon. If we look at your armor sets here, the Phantom Wolf sets and the Shadow Harvester sets both come from T1 and T2 dungeons. The Heroic Tunic of Resistance comes from your random bags and the Eagles, so farm your world bosses. The Ancient Tapestry Mantle comes from your open world Abyss dungeon Shadow Crypt. If we look at Sapphire Dimensional Bands, you get these from doing your random T1s and getting a Salvation token. Then you have your Forbidden Eternal Chain, then the Slayers. A lot of these are accessible through bags, open world dungeons, T1 dungeons. With the exception on this specific build of Band of Universal Power. So you would want to roll this into something a little bit easier to get. So for instance, the most common one that most people get is Etched Alabaster Band. Just to offset it a little bit here, you would have to work on your attributes to fix that kind of setup, but focusing on this type of build. Now, once you have this type of build set up, what you're wanting to focus on to prep yourself for the next expansion is this specific build. So this is step 3, guys. This specific build has magic ranged evasion. Okay. If you're wanting to go evasion in the next expansion, Talandre, 100% continue this setup. If you're wanting to go endurance in the next expansion, make sure instead of using the traits, when we talk about leveling the traits up for super cheap here in step 4, make sure that you're just going the endurance setup for everything, okay? The reason you want to do this is because when you get a piece of gear into Talandre, if you have endurance already on the rest of your armor, then when you get a piece and you start trading it out, you're not going to be missing endurance, or you're not going to be missing evasion if you're trying to re-roll. So you want to re-roll the exact same endurances and evasions that you would be running in the next expansion. All right, now step 4, guys. Step 4 is you got max level, you picked a build and you started farming for that build. Go ham with it. Do your dungeons, do your abyssal farm, go and get more dungeon runs from Shadow Crypt. There's an infinite loop of farming at the moment, and it is insane. The next step is getting traits and mastery level. The traits are super cheap. Now if we look at weapon traits here, right now almost every single class is running hit, crit, heavy attack. If we look at hit, 29 lucent. If we're looking at crits, 25 lucent. Heavy attack, 50 lucent. I remember when each one of these were 1,000 lucent plus when the game first launched. So traits are insanely cheap. Follow a lucent farming guide if you feel like this is still expensive. There's plenty of them out there. I have posted a couple myself. Of course, they're not as efficient currently, but they are still viable. If we look at some of your armor traits, right? So for instance, if you're going, let's look at our evasions. If you look at evasion, epic, wait, and evasion. I can find it. Oh, right here. Let's do ranged evasion. And then helmet, 32 lucent. Cloak, you can't do that on a cloak. Chest piece, 25 lucent. Hands, 27. You get the picture. Lucent, insanely cheap to get. So getting these traits, getting this gear maxed out trait wise, super cheap, super efficient. Make sure that you are max traded going into Talandre in 2 weeks. Let's look at weapon mastery. Weapon mastery, you can get to max level 20 right now. Okay, when Talandre comes out, the max level is now going to 200. Almost said 40 to 200. When you are level 20, the ratio, when it converts to 200, you will now be sitting at level 60. So for the next 2 weeks, make sure that you're following the weapon mastery farms when you're doing your abyssal dungeons, using all your due that you get from every single thing into your weapon combination you're wanting to run. You at this point can get anywhere from level 15 to probably 20 if you grind enough over these next 2 weeks. May be very difficult if you're not maximizing with your food buffs and everything, but on the low end you'll be level 15, which is a huge jump if you're just now starting into the game. So there is not a huge gap from getting into the game now from what everybody has been playing since day one, if you put your mind to it over these next 2 weeks, because the next expansion is going to change everything. Now let's talk about probably the most expensive or the most difficult part of getting your gear maxed out, and that is your level on the gear. Okay, when you're leveling your gear, so armors, weapon, accessories, you are going to be using these precious armor stones or precious accessory stones or precious weapon stones for each item. It starts to get expensive when you level up items. For instance, it takes 1 on the first one, but it can stack, it can get up to a point where it takes 9 of them to get to level 9. You want to maximize being able to craft these as much as possible, okay? And leveling your weapons up to level 9. How you do so is on your abyssal farms. You will be getting stones and precious polished crystals. When you're using these stones and precious polished crystals, any of the purple items you do not need that you're not selling for Lucent or something, you need to dissolve them and get precious powder. Precious powder is insane to come by. It is very difficult to come by. And same thing with your blue items. If you don't need them, dissolve them, get the rare magic powder so that you can convert it to precious powder. This is probably going to be the most difficult thing to get max level armor and gear to level 9 per item over the next 2 weeks because you have such limited time. Now, if you're maximizing and you're running your dungeons, running your abyssal tokens, going and farming the chests in Shadowed Crypt, and rinse repeating, getting more dungeon runs, getting more abyssal runs, there's infinite loot coming to you. So this is a possibility to be able to get it done, but you're gonna have to put your mind to it. Now, with all of that being said, guys, if you still find that you finish all of those items, so step 1, getting max level. Step 2, finding a build, grinding for the items. Step 3, getting your traits. Step 4, getting your weapon levels and your armor levels. If you find out that you're done with all that, you finished the build, you're prepped for Talandre, you are not prepped for Talandre. The last item is you want to stack up as many and as much of all the extra gems, trade unlock stones, any item you can hold on to from this point on after you get your build, hold it. You want to be able to go into the next expansion with as many materials as possible because weapon levels are going to cost gems, solid, everything. You're going to need extra traits to be able to trade out the new gear. You want to come in with as much prep as possible so that transition is a lot smoother, guys. All right, now if you really like this video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment down below what build you're going to be running in Talandre, and I will be putting out more guides like this in the future. And enjoy some of my awesome Dark Blighter gameplay with the sleep bombs and everything, because I make daily Throne of Liberty content, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.